Welcome back to the Pink Corner podcast. This is officially our third episode. I'm very excited. I know you guys have been enjoying my fight breakdowns and stuff like that, but I really like these portions of the podcast. So with us, we have our third guest, very special guest, Zack Ferg. He's a former Navy SEAL, a firearms teacher, and also a Jiu Jitsu practitioner. So without further ado, here's Zack Ferg.
Okay, thanks for having me on the podcast, Pink Corner podcast. This is officially my second podcast I've done, or third. The other one hasn't been released yet, but I'm really excited for this one. We have a lot of rapport, a lot of similar interests. We've known each other for a bit, so I'm really excited to share my story, and I'm super confident it's going to resonate with your viewers.
I agree. Yeah. So if you were to introduce yourself, or when you want people to think, oh, like I know Zack Ferg, explain who you are, what you're about, a little bit about your mentality, kind of like that.
So my name's Zack Ferguson. I was born and raised in Orange County, California. My family's from Boston originally. I was born and raised here. I grew up playing baseball and joined the military shortly after. But I was in the SEAL teams on SEAL Team 7 for 6 years. Got out, started doing jiu-jitsu. Now I'm a purple belt at 10th Planet Orange. Now I teach at with Defense Strategies Group with Mike and Angel. I love it, yeah. Yeah,
so he teaches, we had Angel Cortez on for the first episode. They both teach at DSG for the Firearms Instructor, or instructing. Take us through what made you decide to transition? Because I know we've talked about in the past what your goals were growing up. You know, you wanted to be an MMA fighter. That was, you know, your dream was to be a UFC fighter. Take me through the moment where you hit that switch. Like when you decided, all right, I want to do more than this. Like life's more than just training and fighting, you know?
It's cool because my dream was to be what you're doing,
yeah.
a UFC fighter. So this is really cool. I was 13 years old and I had an existential crisis like in my house.
Not many people can say that at 13 years old, that they're having a crisis.
Yeah.
That's a mature thing to say for a 13-year-old.
It was such a deep thinking, like out-of-body experience. I was sitting on the computer, the old box computers, typing. My parents were sitting right next to me, and I wrote myself an email at 13 that I drafted and sent it to myself saying, I want to be a UFC champion. There's something greater in life for me than going to a 9-to-5. That's not for me. So I've always been fascinated with warrior culture, like Spartans, gladiators.
Did you watch a lot of that growing up?
Yeah. Gladiator movies, The Last Samurai.
Yeah.
Men who were like super savage.
Yeah.
That were the best at their time in warfare.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so a UFC fighter is like equivalent to that. That's what my mindset was. And I was always fascinated by men who are willing to die on the battlefield with no questions asked, like just raw, authentic. So that's why I wanted to be a UFC fighter, 13.
Yeah. Like the modern day version of.
Yeah.
Probably, and the safe version too. The safe version of a warrior mentality. But I hear you talk about that a lot, especially in other podcasts or your posts. And what obviously stands out to me is the willingness to die or accepting that. And I know in other podcasts I've heard you talk about how you think a lot of people don't fully accept that before, like, say, joining the military or making that step towards joining. Everyone says like, oh yeah, I'm willing to die. I mean, you hear it a lot too. MMA fighters say the same thing, like, I'm willing to die in that cage. But obviously saying it and actually meaning it are two different things. So I know the story, but tell us a little bit about your journey, I guess you could say, to actually accepting that and making sure you accept that before you took on that responsibility. Yeah.
So I was in like a pretty dark place thinking about like dying at such a young age. I was like fascinated. I wasn't even scared of it. It was almost like I wasn't suicidal, but the thought of committing to a goal until death at that age was like profound.
Yeah.
And I wasn't scared of it, but it took a long time to process my thoughts. Mm-hmm. And so I was doing MMA. I finished high school. So I was 20 years old and my family's from Boston, Mass. And I'm trying to be a UFC fighter and I'm watching the Boston Marathon. And my dad, who's like my hero, like if you look at me and if you like me at all, my personality, my traits, my hard work.
It's your dad.
It's my dad. I'm just a reflection of him.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there watching the marathon. And at my house, like the picture you have here, there's a picture of my dad finishing the Boston Marathon, crossing the finish line. So every day I would look at that and be like, my dad's a fucking G, he's a badass. And then I'm watching TV with him, and then I just see terrorists blow up children and seen body parts and carnage. And
that was the Boston race bombing you're talking about, right?
Yeah. And what it felt like to me was, it literally was an out of body experience that like God took his hand, looked at it, and he smacked me across my face. And he literally said these words: "You're being a selfish prick. You're not a UFC champion. That's not your goal or purpose. You need to go protect your family and friends, loved ones, and country."
So it was like an extreme like reality check, or your version of a reality check.
Yeah.
At that time, were you still training with the goal of being a UFC fighter? Like you were still fully committed to that, and then that switch just like flipped when you saw the Boston race?
Yeah, I was training. I was doing valet, just getting money for
trying to get by.
Yeah, exactly.
Typical fighter, trying to get by.
Exactly. I was training at Ring Training Center at the time with Mark Munoz,
nice.
Chael Sonnen,
Lineage,
a bunch of those guys, OGs. Yeah. I was looking at the picture the other day, and as soon as God smacked me in the face, there was like a 6-month gap between, okay, I'm going to join the military and protect my family and friends, loved ones. But like, how do I do it at the highest level? And eventually I found the SEAL teams and had to sit about, I was like, what the fuck is a Navy SEAL? Like what training did they go through? And I researched how weak and all that. And then the willingness to die thought came up to my mind again. And I would envision myself. I would sit in my room at 20 years old in the pitch dark from like 10 p.m., sometimes all night long, envision myself dying. And it's like, it's a fucking weird and crazy thought process to wrap your mind around.
Yeah.
But it was necessary for me to be okay with dying to achieve the goal.
And to like perform at the best of your ability, I guess.
Yeah. Because I knew that SEALs die in training.
Yeah.
And that.
I feel like that's not even talked about a lot. Like to the normal people, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think a lot of people know that like during training it's that intense.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, but.
So eventually, like after 6 months, I accepted death. And it was weird. Like I was having these out of body experiences again. And I was sitting there. This is like the last couple of weeks where I finally decided, yes, this like dark figure was behind me, overlooking me, that I couldn't see his face though. And then he opened up a door and it was just black inside and it looked like death. And I'm like, and he's like, if you want to be a SEAL, you have to walk through this door. This is before I even went to the military. And I said, I'm willing to go inside. And he said, okay. So
you were just putting yourself through like mental turmoil to kind of sit with that and like really accept that. Because not many 20-year-olds not many people in general would be willing to kind of put themselves there. You know, like I said, a lot of people say that I'm willing to die. I'm willing to die for what I love. But it's like when shit hits the fan and you're actually in that moment, I think a lot of people switch up. But for 6 straight months, you were sitting there digesting and accepting that.
It was a mental torment. I was literally tormenting myself. And it was extremely necessary for me to do that. Because if I didn't do that, then I would have quit training.
Yeah. You definitely think that helped you while you were, overseas and like...
I would say more so to make it through BUDS training. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I was a womanizer, like, yeah, and in high school, like, bad.
Yeah. And self-aware, at least.
What's that?
So you're self-aware.
It's cool, though, to have a female host because I haven't shared this yet.
Yeah.
I was a douchebag.
Yeah. To
women. I would, like, lead them on to them, like, loving me and me knowing, like, I'm just here to, like, have sex with you.
Yeah.
And it was, like, so royally fucked up. Yeah. So I've changed those ways, obviously.
Yeah.
But I had to close off all possibilities of relationships with women. My family and friends all came second.
Distractions, pretty much.
Yeah. My family came second. My friends and women did too to achieve this goal. But it wasn't because I wanted to be a SEAL to get a big old trident. I didn't give a fuck about that.
Yeah.
My goal was God told me to protect you guys.
Yeah.
So that was the whole purpose behind it.
Especially when your whole life you've kind of been drawn to or obsessed with like that warrior mentality. It's like, it seems like a puzzle piece kind of clicked and you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like this makes sense. You know what I mean? Because from everything I hear, it sounds like that's just always been your personality. Like, it's not like being a Navy SEAL didn't make you that way. Like, you were already that way. And you're like, okay.
Good point. I was always that way. I think God put me here literally just to protect the people I love.
Yeah.
and these big goals, aspirations of UFC champion. I'm not protecting anyone. You know,
it's selfish. It's a selfish, yeah.
I
the belt wrapped around your waist, like it's obviously it's like a crazy accomplishment, and but it's not comparable. Like they're very different successes and different meanings and different, but it's definitely a selfish sport. You know what I mean?
I have a tremendous amount of respect for MMA fighters, like UFC fighters, like really do. Like they're hard people, they're hardworking, they're tough as fuck. Like, yeah, tremendous amount of respect.
Yeah. And Sean Strickland had a couple of choice words.
I love Sean Strickland's fighting style.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a beast for sure.
Sometimes I think he says out of pocket stuff just cause.
In my opinion, I don't know him, never met him. He has undealt trauma in his past.
Oh, I think he's even said that, yeah.
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 And he lashes out or says things without thinking, and which is fine to speak out loudly. But when you're talking about veterans or guys who literally give their blood and life for you and your country just to talk freely, and you just backhand them, that's why I like reposted videos. Like, we're not the same people. Yeah. You know.
Yeah. Very much not comparable things.
Yeah. he was basically saying like,
you guys like Navy SEALs couldn't last, or Army vets couldn't last.
He said Navy
in our
SEALs,
training, right?
Navy SEALs can't survive a week training me, and I'm like, okay, well, if I go spar with you, yeah, you're probably gonna punch me until I'm brain dead.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying. Like anybody could go do that. I'm saying, like, you're not gonna break me mentally. Yeah. You might like kill me by traumatic brain injury. But you're not gonna break me in training.
Yeah.
You know, I don't need to say that to prove to him. Just like, we're not the same.
No, it's very different. I remember when he said that he had a lot of people up in arms, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. I think you mess with the wrong group. I was like, they were on your side. I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah,
I was like, they were on your side. Don't do that. But yeah, so you went through those 6 months. You mentally tormented yourself. You prepared yourself for, essentially prepared yourself for training, and I don't know much about BUD/S. I know a little more now that I did some research after we talked about it, obviously. But for those who don't know what BUD/S is or what Navy SEAL training is like, because I think a lot of people that watch my podcast aren't military buffs, you know what I mean? So you could briefly explain that maybe in the process of becoming an actual Navy SEAL.
Sure. So 2015, eventually I said yes after 6 months, and BUD/S it's just an acronym for SEAL training. It's basic underwater demolition SEAL training. So it's 6 months long, divided into 3 phases. They're all 7 weeks long. First, second, third phase. The first phase is weeding out the people who, don't want to be there, quitting. Mm-hmm. Second phase is pool competency, being comfortable in the water. Third phase is land warfare, shooting tactics type stuff. Mm-hmm. So in November 2015, I went to boot camp in Chicago. Regular Navy boot camp for 8 weeks, and then I went to BUD/S in January 2016.
So everyone has to do that initial boot camp before they do BUD/S?
Yeah. Okay. And it was like...
Was BUD/S harder?
It's so funny because boot camp was so fucking gay that it was harder than BUD/S was. I was like, I'd rather go through Hell Week again than go to fucking boot camp again.
Really?
That's really how I felt. Because you're around a bunch of nerds, marching around, doing a bunch of bullshit. I'm like... I don't want to do this, but it's just a step towards... You have to,
yeah. Take us through BUD/S. I know you've shared a little bit about your personal experience with BUD/S. And I know we were just talking about even how people die during training and everything. So tell them a little bit about that experience you had.
So I finished boot camp, went to BUD/S, and my class started with 220 guys on the first day of first phase. And on the first week, we're doing this evolution called the beehive, which is you're in boots, cami pants, cami top, and you wear goggles, those big scuba goggles, and they fill with water, and you have to sit there with a charged mask. And they throw you in the pool, everybody, and the instructors jump in and they beehive you around together, and it creates chaos. Everyone's pulling each other down, to tread water. Yeah. And we were talking about a second ago, I had a deviated septum from when I broke my nose.
Just can't breathe.
In MMA. So I couldn't keep the water in my mask. It was just drowning me. And the instructor saw I was struggling. And they were like, that guy's going to quit. We're going to make him quit. And I said, and they kept filling masks, dunking me. And then.
So essentially they're like drowning you.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And the moment we talked about a second ago where like this dark figure brought me to this door, I had that experience again. It was picture perfect, exactly the same. And he opened the door and he opened it and he's like, you said you're willing to die, yes or no? And I was like,
you're like, well, I've trained for this.
I literally
moment,
did this to him.
Yeah.
I flipped him off in my head and I stepped inside the dark room and I woke up on the side of the pool. I drowned.
So they had to like pull you out of the pool?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I drowned in that evolution. It was like one of the hardest evolutions for me.
Yeah. And what happened like after that? Like, did they give you a break? Do you go right back into it? Like,
good question. So they slapped me awake. I woke up, started vomiting everywhere.
Yeah.
And I had shit my pants in the pool right before I drowned.
You were about to die, so
yeah.
That makes sense.
And the instructor looked at me and he said, go ring the bell. And I said,
what does that mean? Go ring the bell? Like go quit or like go clock out kind of thing?
In BUDS training, there's a bell that you ring it 3 times and you're quitting and you're done. And the bell follows you everywhere you go in BUDS training. They bring it out of the truck. It's on the ground.
So they give you the quit button.
What's that?
They like give you the quit button. They're like, it's right here if you want it.
Yeah. In my mind, I said, fuck you. I don't remember at the time what I said.
Yeah.
And I went to go jump in the pool again to join my class. And he said, stop. And I was like, why? I'm like, I'm ready to go in training. And he said, all the instructors started screaming, everybody out of the pool. And I was like, what the fuck's going on?
You're like, what did I do?
Yeah, I was like, what did I do wrong?
What the fuck did I do?
I fucked something up. And I looked to my right and my left, actually, and I'm visioning right now. And my teammate at the time, James Derek Lovelace, and they were giving him CPR, and he had drowned like 30 seconds after me, and they were trying to bring him back, and he ended up dying on the pool deck. So that's crazy. Was the first week of BUDS training.
First week.
Yeah.
I know we talked about how you accepted like your own death, but how was it seeing? I mean, I'm guessing you weren't too close to these guys yet because you probably just met them, but still seeing someone you were just in his shoes 30 seconds ago and they couldn't resuscitate him. Like, did that have any mental effect on you, or like what went through your brain after that? Like, you made it. You thought you were going to die. And you're like, oh, I'm alive. That's cool, Yeah. And then all of a sudden you look over and someone 30 seconds later can't be resuscitated. Like, what went through your mind then?
So you said a second ago, maybe wasn't that close to him. In something that's so hard, the selection part of the hardest thing a man can do, you get really close to someone like fast.
Fast, yeah.
So I did all of boot camp with him.
Oh, all of boot camp too.
All of basic orientation, which is 3 weeks for BUDS.
Oh, so you guys were
hanging out, and like I didn't get too close to anybody.
Yeah.
And I made it a point to not do that until after Hell Week because I knew most of everybody would be gone.
Yeah.
But we're still very close. So I saw him die, and honestly, like I was like pretty heartless.
Yeah. I feel like you almost kind of have to be, huh?
Yeah.
Like a survival thing almost.
Exactly. Like if I let his death affect me, then I get emotionally attached and I quit. Then
especially because it's such a mental thing.
Yeah.
Such a mental thing. Because I even remember you saying something about that. Like, you're like, at this point, everyone's physically fit enough to be here. Like, it's not about being physically fit and being able to swim and being able to do this. It's all about like the mental side. It
is. So BUDS training it was literally created for the average fit male to pass. And the standards for you just to get qualified are really like, they're pretty minimal. Like 20 pull-ups, like 100 push-ups in 2 minutes, a swim and a run. That's like, anybody could train for a year and meet them.
Yeah.
So there's these standards for physical fitness. They don't fucking matter. I get DMs every day, all day.
Yeah.
Saying, here's my PhD scores. I'm like,
I don't care.
I'm like, bro, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're like, what's the answer to BUDS? And I said, you must be willing to die. And they asked me again, how many push-ups do I need to do more? And I said,
did you not hear what I just said?
Pause, and I'm going to say this one more time. Yeah. If your answer is yes, don't say yes now because you haven't thought about it.
Yeah.
After you sit with it and your answer is yes, then that's the key.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Very, very simple. When I say simple, it's not easy, but the formula.
Simple, not easy.
Yeah.
Makes sense. After that, how was BUDS training?
So
because that was the first week you said, first couple weeks.
That was the first week of buds training. So we're in week 1 of 6 months.
Damn.
And
that's starting off with a bang right there.
Yeah. So just to backtrack 1 second, 2 weeks before this incident happened, the class before me, we talked about willing to die. And I was class 319, and in 318, a stud, Daniel Diabanco, USC, like just D1 All-American beast. He was in Hell Week, and he ended up quitting. And he took an Uber to downtown San Diego, or drove there, went to a Marriott hotel, took the elevator up to jump top floor and jumped off, killed himself. So we like had someone who committed suicide, someone who died a week after. And then everyone just like, for me, it was normal. I'm like, I committed to this already.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck if I die.
Yeah.
If I die, then whatever. Everyone fucking dies. But yeah, it was a lot for...
Is that normal? Like...
Deaths in buds training?
Yeah.
More SEALs die in training than they do in combat.
That's crazy.
Between buds and in workup for deployment.
Yeah.
It has to be that way. Like last summer, a SEAL candidate died post Hell Week. Like, I'll talk about Hell Week real quick. So you wake up on Sunday, like 6 a.m., and you do a bunch of evolutions all the way until Friday afternoon with 0 sleep.
Oh, wow.
So you're just getting like surf tortured, you know. We're right next to Mexico, so
what's surf tortured, like waterboarded practically?
So you're laying.
Is that when they like lay on the beach?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So you're laying in the cold water with your brothers in arms.
Yeah.
And dudes are just ringing out left and right, ringing the bell, quitting. And Mexico's right there, so the Tijuana sewage runs off into the ocean, and people get gastro infections. I had VGE, which is shitting and vomiting yourself for 3 days.
Yeah.
So we started with 220 guys the first day, and we finished Hell Week with like 40.
Damn.
And then we finished buds training with 9 original guys. Yeah. So quite a high attrition rate. Yeah.
So essentially, I mean, obviously it's training, but it's kind of just like an elimination process.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Because if you quit in training, the purpose is for you not to quit in combat, because if we're in a gunfight or we're on deployment together and you quit and your buddy gets shot, they're gonna
let everyone else down.
Yeah. People need to die in buds training every so often.
Yeah.
For it to be like, to make sure the standards are there.
Yeah.
You know?
With like reaction from everyone else kind of thing. With how people react to it, how they carry on, kind of like the mental side of that.
No, I would say more of like how hard the training is.
That makes sense.
Yeah. People are going to die from time to time.
Yeah.
You know? Like cage fighting, sometimes people die like once in a while. Or from cutting weight. You hear that sometimes?
Yeah.
So, somewhere in the ways where like it's necessary sometimes.
Yeah.
Not to say that. Then maybe cut too much weight, but yeah.
What's the next step after buds? So there's 9 of you that finished. What's next for you 9?
So we did buds training, which is 6 months, and then after buds training, there's SQT, which is SEAL qualification training, and that's in 9 months. We do like skydiving, tactics, shootings type stuff, and SEER school, which I won't touch on. So that's like it's a 1.5 year long process, and I graduated with my class in June 2017. Nice. I checked into SEAL Team 7, that's where I got orders from. And my platoon was on deployment in Iraq at the time.
Was that your first?
What's that?
Was that your first deployment in Iraq? Or where was your first one?
So I checked in the team, they were gone. So they sent me to a bunch of schools. Like, I went to comm school, which is radio talk. I went to JTAC, which stands for Joint Terminal Air Controller, Tactical Air Controller, to like talk to airplanes dropping bombs. So I went to those schools, and then it was December 2017, and then my platoon chief asked me if I wanted to go to Iraq deployment. So I checked into the team. My team was gone on deployment, and my chief asked me to go to Iraq, and I said absolutely. December 2017, I went there with SEAL Team 3, and we were in the Haditha Dam in Iraq. So we went there. We were at a little outstation, just our platoon and like 10 Marines guarding us. And it was great. We were doing some ops near Al-Qaim, which is like Western Iraq, near the Syrian border. And I was sitting there. We were living in this tent. And I started getting sick. I'm like, oh, don't be a pussy. Fucking just deal with it. I'm like,
suck it up.
Cool.
Suck it up.
And I started getting really sick, fever, and I was a new guy at the time. So the other new guy is also a medic that I was with. And he's like, you don't look good. I'm like, I'm fine, bro. And so it's been 6 days at this point. And I was peeing literally like this color.
Ooh. Were you dehydrated?
Yeah, so I was dehydrated. I couldn't eat food. And eventually I shined my phone down my throat and I looked down it. And I had mono eventually.
Oh, no.
So I had mono and I was hiding it for like a long time to the platoon.
Mono can fuck you up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had a deviate septum, couldn't nose breathe.
Damn.
I had mono and it closed my mouth
Throat?
breathing.
Yeah.
And then eventually I was like, dude, I need to get out of here because I can't breathe. And they evac'd me to Baghdad, Iraq. Oh. And as I got onto the helicopter, they put an IV in me. And he's like, what's your pain level at? And it's like super loud. I'm like, it's like a 4 out of 10. I don't know what he thought I said.
Yeah.
And he pushed some painkillers in my IV. And I went to like heaven. I was like, this is amazing.
I feel amazing. Take me back.
Yeah.
I'm good now.
We landed and I was so curious on what he gave me that I asked him.
Yeah.
I'll let you guess first what it was. What painkiller? We were talking about
I don't know much about painkillers, like names of painkillers.
Like Norco or...
Oh, I feel like Vicodin is pretty... Vicodin?
They gave me fentanyl.
I was gonna say that, but I didn't know if that was a painkiller or not.
Yeah.
I was like, I feel like it's fentanyl, but I didn't want to sound dumb. I didn't want to sound dumb because I didn't know it was that.
So they gave me fentanyl, and I was like, that makes sense why everybody's addicted to this shit. It's crazy. I was in the hospital on Christmas and New Year's, FaceTime my parents, and I was like, just
still in Iraq, right?
Yeah, still in Iraq. I'm like, give me the fuck out of here. Join the platoon again on Team 3. And it took me so long to recover. I went from, like, you think about weight cutting or something. Yeah. I went from like 170 to 153 in like 2 weeks.
Because you couldn't eat, probably because your throat, right?
Yeah. I couldn't swallow out of anything. And so they're like, dude, you need to go back to the U.S. and heal. So I said, oh, fine. So I flew back and healed up, and then I joined my platoon, and then I got back from Iraq.
Okay, nice. Yeah. And you didn't get to do anything then, your first technical deployment then? So you were just sick right off the bat?
It was like maybe like 3 weeks in or 4 weeks in. So we got to do some ops.
Yeah. Did you get to see any of the culture in Iraq while you were there? Like, I'm always like, I'm like a geek about culture. I don't know why. I love hearing about like different, I mean, obviously it's different because like you're there for war purposes. So you're not just like enjoying the land. You know what I mean? Yeah. But did anything like shock you that you saw? I mean, I guess you were only there for like 3 weeks, but still. Yeah,
so we did a lot of TGMs, which is like tactical ground mobility, which is driving like those big up armored vehicles through town, doing ops. And we were right next to the Haditha Dam. So like a river was running between us and our outstation. Yeah, we see like, like dead bodies afloat off the river. And we were getting food from our like partner force, Iraqi dudes, like through a fence. Oh. That would divided us and our compound. They would give us like rice and food, and we'd grab it through the fence and eat it. And I got sick shortly after from that, or from I picked up somewhere else. But it was a good experience, and I showed up like really quiet. I'm a new guy joining a SEAL Team 3 on deployment. I just shut my mouth. I'm like, give me work. Like, I'll do whatever you guys want me to do. And they had jiu-jitsu mats there.
Oh, that's cool.
In this little like hut thing. So I was training jiu-jitsu, and I think I gained some rapport with them. Yeah. And I was like, I wasn't even that good, but I was like showing up every day, and we got along really well. So. Yeah.
And how was your second deployment compared to that first time?
So I got back from that deployment, and now I'm in my second deployment with my SEAL Team 7, my like actual platoon. And we went to the UAE, which is Dubai, Abu Dhabi, And it's usually like pretty chill, low key for the most part. And then the Iranians were dropping at night. They were putting ship mines on cargo ships going through the Strait of Hormuz, which is like off the Yemenis, Dubai, and off Iran coast, like through that valley or the coast. So they were blowing up big ships, cargo ships, holes in them, and the ships couldn't move anymore. So we were tasked for like BDA, which is battle damage assessment. So we actually did like a real world diving op.
Oh, wow.
So I put my mask on.
That actually sounds really cool.
It was really fun.
Yeah.
So my chief was like, you know, when you guys want to go? I'm like, fuck yeah, give me it.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were diving, doing measurements and BDA on ships, and then sending it straight to Trump. And we were trying to get a follow-on mission to like board and raid the Iranian ships. So
dumb question, but are you scared of the ocean at all or no? I'm terrified of the ocean. I mean, I think it's beautiful and I love seeing it, but like I don't know why. I'm so terrified of the ocean.
I'm terrified of the ocean. I respect the ocean a lot.
Yeah.
And because I say this in my posts a lot, that Mother Nature is brutal and she'll break anybody with cold water. And so I respect the ocean. I'm very confident in there. But like those are like shark infested waters and
yeah.
I'm
well, I think that's a scary thing is like tides are one thing, you know, like the water has a mind of its own. When I was like 13 or 14, I don't remember. My family had like a 17-foot Bayliner boat, and we went out way too far for that boat, and it died on us, and we got like washed onto the shore, and our boat like we were in these big swells, and like I was seasick the whole time, so I'm like vomiting over the side, and the boat flipped us, and we were still like a good ways out, and I had to swim to the shore. Ever since then, I was like,
This is a 17-foot boat?
Yeah.
So not that long, yeah.
No, it was way too small. And like, you know, they always say like, oh, like be in before like sunset. Because like that's when like the tide, whatever. It was so bad. It was so scary. And like at one point, like something like really big like hit the bottom of the boat. And I was like, oh my God, these are shark infested waters. That's great. Like I'm going to get, so I don't know. I'm terrified of the ocean. I think it's beautiful and I do respect it. Like I like watching the ocean, but like, I don't know, scuba diving, snorkeling, that shit seems like so scary. Because what if you see a shark down there? You're just supposed to, well, I'm already in the water. Like, what are you supposed to do? Like,
I have a story.
With a shark?
Kinda.
Oh boy.
Because you were saying that what if there's a shark? So in like in SQT SEAL qualification training, we're doing scuba diving, closed circuit without bubbles, and it's at night. You can't see your hand in front of your face. We use these little glow sticks.
The ocean at night's even worse.
With the little compass navigation, and your buddy's attached to you, like, so we have a string attached to each other. You're my buddy.
Yeah.
You're my swim buddy. And I'm sitting there looking at a compass, and you're sitting there with the buoy just kicking, and all I feel was like a big smack on my left side, and I was like, this motherfucker's fucking with me. So I was like, fucking John or whatever his name is, we'll call him. I was like, quit fucking with me. And then I was like,
there's nothing there. And
then I grabbed my line and I was like, oh my God. And then it happened again. And I was like,
you're just getting circled by sharks.
Do not look anywhere else but this tack board. And it happened to be dolphins.
Oh, okay. Yeah. At least that's better.
Yeah.
I heard dolphins can be dickheads though. Yeah. But I've never had a bad experience with dolphins though. They've always been nice. But that would still scare the shit out of me. I don't care if it's a dolphin, a shark, a turtle. Like, oh my God. You're like, hey, stop fucking with me. He's on the other side. You're like, oh my God. Did you have to, obviously Navy SEALs like primarily water, correct? Not primarily, but like water training, like water stuff. Did you have to do a lot of water stuff?
Yeah, so a SEAL is just an acronym, like BUDS training. BUDS, Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training. SEAL is just an acronym for sea, air, and land. Oh, okay. That's all that it is. So we're masters of the sea, air, jumping out of airplanes, and land warfare. Second phase, we did a lot of cool stuff. And then follow-on training, a lot of like closed circuit diving and stuff like that. Just being comfortable in the water is a whole different ball game. It really is.
I mean, especially like there's also a huge difference between like rivers and lakes and ocean.
Yeah.
Like the ocean is, I could be in a river and a lake and I'll be all right, but the ocean, oh, I don't know.
Like swells, just while we're on the topic, so I was on that deployment. Actually, let's cut there. I'll talk about it in a second. Sorry, go ahead from whatever you want to talk about. I'll talk about it when we get to it.
I was talking about the ocean, how I think it's scary. But I've talked about that for like 3 minutes, so I probably should stop talking about it.
So we finished my first deployment. I joined my second.
Yeah.
I joined my platoon.
Yeah. Okay. And then you had that shark story. What else?
I could just continue if you want. Okay.
Yeah.
So I got back from Iraq deployment and joined my SEAL platoon on SEAL Team 7. Mm-hmm. I went in there with like a humble mind, just willing to like learn from them, just keep my mouth shut and
head down and work.
Yeah, I'm like, how can I be the biggest asset I can to you guys? And I wasn't like, I was good at fighting because I had prior fight experience. And in the SEAL teams, like, if you have a problem with somebody, you just like, hey, like, fuck you, okay, let's go fight. Like, meet me in the
hash
garage.
It out. Yeah.
Yeah, like the old school ways.
Yeah.
And they saw that right away, and I think I gained like some respect in that form. Yeah. I love those dudes. So we geared up for the UAE deployment. Actually, let's cut there. I already talked about the UAE deployment, right? Yeah, I did. Yeah. Okay. So it was third deployment. Yeah. Okay. So I got back from the UAE, and my chief asked me if I want to go to sniper school. Ooh. And I was like, fucking A. Yeah. Absolutely. My goal when I was a new guy was to outshoot everybody. I'm just going to be fucking nasty because I really want to go to sniper school. Yeah. And I didn't want to be a sniper necessarily. I wanted to be my platoon's point man. So they pick like your best sniper for point man, which is leading your platoon, whether it's in a vehicle convoy or on foot, to missions. It's a huge responsibility because if you choose a bad route and it's an IED and someone blows up and dies, that's your fault. It's all on you. Yeah. Yeah. And so when he asked me to be a point man, I was like, it's a big responsibility. And I was like appreciative of like, the opportunity. Yeah. And like how he thought about my performance. Yeah.
It's like a compliment.
Yeah. So I went to sniper school after second deployment, and it was in Indiana, and it was January, and we were doing stalking, which is like putting camouflage on, and you have to like sneak up to the instructors slowly and then shoot a target. And it was -6 degrees.
Was it snowing?
Yeah, it was snowing. And I was like, sitting there like my gun, like
your hands like frozen to your gun.
I had finger gloves on, like hand warmies. Yeah. And I popped my finger out to take the shot, and then I put my warmies on.
Put it back in. So well, I'm sure you'd like lose feeling in your fingers if it's out for too long, no?
I literally had hand warm gloves, and then those hand warmies. Yeah. I put inside the gloves. Yeah. And that was good enough. Yeah. That was January 2020, so it was right before COVID happened.
Oh wow. Yeah. How was COVID in like the military?
I was living in San Diego with guys in my platoon. Yeah. And the world shut down, and we had this rooftop in Bankers Hill, San Diego, and we would just do kickboxing and jiu-jitsu on the roof for like 2 months while everything was shut down. And I was sneaking into. I just joined my first gym. This was 2020, Barry Yoshida's gym in San Diego. Yeah. And we were sneaking in the back door to train.
Yeah, I remember those sneaking into train days. Yeah. That was quite a time. Did the military take a lot of precaution during 2020, like during COVID? Like, did they do the whole mask and social distance and everything?
They did the mask for a bit, then guys were eventually like, this is fucking gay. Yeah. But still, we were just like everyone else. Yeah. Nothing.
What was going on, like deployment wise, like during 2020, like during COVID era? Like people were just overseas still, and like.
They were still overseas. So we were gearing up for our third deployment. Yeah. And I'll talk about it in a second, but yeah, it was still like gay, like mask and all this crap and like distancing. To a degrry.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you kind of can't, though, when you're, like...
You can't.
In the military.
It's a bunch of fucking bullshit. Yeah. And guys would get in fights with, like, higher-ups because they're just taking orders from the higher-ups. Yeah. You know
I'm just trying to listen and do my job. Yeah.
I wasn't shy about saying... So there's officers and enlisted men in the military. Mm-hmm. I was not shy about saying, fuck you, regardless of rank. Yeah. I would say fuck you to my OIC officer in charge of my platoon. Yeah. Or even higher ups, like, you know, if you have a problem, let's go in the fight gym.
Yeah.
That's how I roll.
Yeah.
That's how team guys should roll.
Yeah.
So it was gay for a bit, and then eventually it washed over. It was dope for a bit. I wish I gay.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
So it's summer 2020, and I'd finished sniper school, and we were doing workup for Yemen deployment.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
This is dumb. I'm geographically challenged. So where is Yemen?
So
I've always heard of Yemen, but I don't.
So you have like Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and Yemen's on the southern part of it.
Okay.
And if you are in Yemen and you like look to the west, Africa is right across the way.
Okay.
And then to your right is Iran.
Okay.
So we went to Yemen in 2021 summertime. Yeah.
Hot as hell.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
What was nice though, we were like 1,000 yards from the beach.
Oh wow.
We had our own little,
the beach is nice.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
nice.
it was nice.
Our little surf spot. So we would like surf in the morning and do like operations. And we had this jet ski with a little tower on the back so surfers could jump on it or whatever that we used missions for. And I remember this older dude was a fucking really good surfer. And I was driving the jet ski. I'm sitting there watching him surf. And then I just see a giant fin pop up out of the water. And I'm like,
here we go again.
Oh my gosh. We'll call him John. Get on the fucking jet ski. And then he saw the fin and he's like, oh my gosh. Because it's like 80-degree water.
Yeah.
And shark infested.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect for sharks.
But and it's murky.
Yeah. So you can't see anything.
Nothing. Yeah.
That's another reason why I don't surf. I've always wanted to surf. It looks cool. Are you good at surfing?
I've never really been surfing.
Oh,
I do spearfishing and lobster diving, but never like surfing.
I can't even ride a skateboard, so I don't think I have.
I can't ride a skateboard either.
I can't ride a skateboard for anything. I don't know why. I've always been challenged in balance for the most part. I feel like I don't know how I don't have a problem in fighting from it, but in general I do. How was that Yemen tour like overall? Any like crazy stuff you experienced? What was the craziest tour that you had? Like where the most shit went down?
Like during my first or my second one in the UAE, like the Eddie Gallagher thing came up. I'm sure viewers know about that. Like, so like our team was like on the naughty list or whatever. So there was like a bunch of shit going on there. I didn't have like crazy deployments because it was like towards the end of like combat.
Yeah.
So I didn't get like crazy experience like Angel or Mike did.
Yeah.
Which is fine. It's just how the way time works. So backtracking towards my dad, which I love very much. You know, addiction runs on his side of the family. And when I was in high school, like he taught me baseball growing up. And he was sober for a long time. And then I quit baseball when I was 14. And it like shattered his like world.
Yeah.
And
was his dream for you to like play baseball? Yeah.
And he was my coach, and it hurt him so much that he like relapsed. And he was on Xanax benders and like was showing up to like my high school, and the cops would show up.
I'm sure like as a kid you took that as your responsibility or your fault, I would imagine.
Yeah. And we put him in sober living, and he was good.
Yeah. Got
sobered up, and he was sober until I left. And then once I left the house, I think there was a slow period of time where he like eventually got back into it. And so before I left he had an incident in 2020 where they had the Trump rallies. So everyone's like, go Trump. And there was like a bunch of liberals. And my dad's 70 and he's like standing up for what he believes in. And this fucking, rephrase the word. Crappy lady, pepper sprays him from behind, and then he gets jumped by like 4 dudes.
Oh, he's like 70 years old?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And I was in Yorba Belinda where we won a race. I was like 2 miles away from this happened, but I didn't know that he was there.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I'm like, I wish I was there, but I'm like, thank God I was not there.
Yeah.
Because I'd be in prison for murder.
Yeah.
For killing 4 people.
Yeah.
And someone filmed it from one of my high school buddies and sent it to me. Damn. And that hurt me a
would have
lot.
sent me. Yeah.
So that was my first hint that my dad needs help.
Yeah.
But my priority was protecting the guys that our lives are aligned. And I didn't know how bad it was until I left for that deployment.
Yeah. Side note, both sides of the political spectrum during those rallies, it's actually insane, the footage and shit that I see. Like, it's insane. No matter what side of the spectrum you're on, I could not understand, like, pepper spraying a 70-year-old man and then jumping him. Like, I don't know. That's insane to me.
When people's emotions get away from them,
Yeah.
all bets are off.
Yeah.
So it was March 2021, and my dad was like heavy drug use, specifically methamphetamine. And at the same time, I had lunch with my sister and my mom, and my sister was diagnosed with Crohn's disease.
My mom has Crohn's.
What's that?
My mom has Crohn's.
Your mom has Crohn's? So you can
Runs
relate?
in my family. Yeah.
Yeah? Damn. Sorry to hear that. It's like...
I've been tested, and so far I'm good. So let's hope.
Good.
Let's hope it stays that way. I don't... It's awful.
So my sister is 28, and my dad's relapsing. My sister got diagnosed. I watched her go from like 130 pounds. She dropped all the way to 80 pounds. Damn. And I sat with... So my sister got diagnosed. She moved back with my parents. My mom, dad, and my sister living together. And I brought my dad into the living room, and I was like... I said, if I have to come back and save you from your drug use, then I'm going to resent you for my whole entire life. Because I'm leaving my boys in deployment.
Yeah.
So I'm in Yemen. My sister's laying in bed sick. And it's July 2021. And she texted me. And it was like, Dad's really bad. And I said, okay. And then my neighbor found her in a pool of her own blood in the bathtub.
Your sister?
From bleeding.
From Crohn's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my dad carried her to the ambulance while he was high. Yeah, that fucked him up pretty bad.
Yeah.
So eventually I made the decision to come home, which was really hard.
Yeah.
Because I was battling, like, protect my boys or protect my family.
Yeah. Especially because you dove completely in. Like, this was almost your identity.
Yeah, it
at
was.
The time. You completely shifted your mental to be there, you know?
Yeah. It was hard.
Yeah.
I think I sat with that decision for like a month.
Yeah.
And I asked my chief, and he said, dude, go home.
Go home. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, thank you.
Yeah.
And I did.
It's also nice to hear that confirmation from someone,
Yeah.
you know, around you and that you respect.
Yeah. He's still in. I love that dude, and I still talk to him, and I really appreciate him. I hope he's doing well. So I took a flight home, and I didn't tell my dad I was coming home. I just showed up to the house.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to see how he was in the state he was.
Yeah. You don't want him to like prepare or
get sober.
Yeah.
And he had been up for 5 days on a meth bender. And I went in the house, and my sister and my mom were there.
Did they know you were coming home?
My sister did. I don't think my mom did. My sister couldn't get out of bed. She couldn't move physically.
Yeah.
And my mom lived upstairs with my dad in their bedroom. And my dad was talking to shadow people that weren't real, talking about crazy things. And I said, wow, this is really unsafe for you guys to be here. I need to move you to a hotel.
Yeah.
So I packed up all their stuff and got him a hotel room. And I said, Dad, I'm going to San Diego to check in the team. I'll be back in a couple of days. So I went back and went to the Padres game with my best friend on a Friday night. Great time.
Trying to get your mind off shit, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just kind of decompress. I just got back from deployment, and I'm dealing with this family shit.
Yeah. Well, and you're like stepped into a different role. Like, you were like a son or brother. Now you're kind of like that lead person in the family. That's a hard role to just step into, especially because you do respect your father so much.
I love my dad.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
And when I talk about my dad and drug use, he's not a drug addict. He like has lapses of judgment where he goes on benders.
Yeah.
And that'll be sober for years.
Addiction runs in my family. So I think addiction comes in all different forms, and I don't think people know a lot about addiction. I think they just assume if someone's an addict, they're just like a bad person who constantly makes bad choices. And it's like, it's so much deeper than that. You know what I mean? So I definitely understand what you mean.
My dad's like the sweetest dude ever.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
And you even said that, like, you're like, all the good from me, like who I am, like it's my dad. So it's like, yeah.
He's like, I'm like, how could someone be so sweet, but be like a savage? Yeah. And like, I get those qualities. I get like the savage mode from him, and my mom is like the sweetest human I've ever met. So I have like the kind soul and heart of hers, and my dad's savage mode.
Did she ever tell you how bad it was when you were overseas, or no? Was it just your sister?
My mom is so sweet. She just like is so loyal.
Yeah, and she probably didn't want to like not stress you out, but like, you know what I mean? Like overseas, like maybe not want to reach out.
She just turned a blind eye toward what's the problem. Yeah. She sees a problem and she looks the other way. Yeah. That's what she did for years with him. Yeah. So I showed up to the house. I got them to the hotel, Padres game, and my neighbor FaceTimed me. And I was like,
it's like all weird.
I didn't even know he had my fucking phone number. Yeah. I looked at my phone at the Padres game, and immediately I said,
You knew it had to be bad. Oh. Yeah.
So I picked up the call, and my house was in a fire.
And your dad's there by himself, so yeah.
And not like there's a bushfire. The house is engulfed in flames. Yeah. And I thought he was gonna die. Yeah.
Because at that point, did you know where he was or anything? You just opened the FaceTime and it's just your childhood home in flames.
Yeah. So like, I'm just like in my head, like looking at the Boston Marathon picture and my house on fire. And I don't know if my dad's in there or not.
This is like so much crazy stuff compacted into such a short amount of time for you. It's like you don't even have time to process the other thing before something else happens.
Exactly. Yeah. So I drove to San Diego. I showed up at midnight, and the fire's put out, and I'm sitting there in the pitch dark, like I did in my bedroom. Yeah. Staring at my house that was burned down.
Yeah. At that point, did you know your dad was safe though? No, you still didn't know.
I walked through my house with caution tape around it, and was like looking at the picture that was gone, and everything was like trashed. And then the cop showed up randomly, which I haven't said before. Mm-hmm. And he didn't even say, "What are you doing here?" He's just like, "How's it going?" I'm like, "Good." It's almost like he knew I was like a son. Yeah. And then I told him my story, and we just like shook hands and talked for a second. He's like, "I'm really sorry, man." I'm like, thank you I love police. Thanks for protecting our community. I'll get it figured out. My dad has this chain, this golden cross that he's worn every day for his whole entire life. Mm-hmm. And he went to jail for felony arson. Mm-hmm. And they took paraphernalia and his chain from him. And so I slept in my truck in front of my house that was burnt for that night, because my mom and my sister were going to show up the next day. So I woke up and they're there, pulled the pillow out of my truck, walked to my front yard. And I felt an obligation to be a pillar of strength for my family. Of course, yeah.
Well, especially when that's what they called you to do. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you didn't even have time to feel that. You're just like, all right, gotta keep it moving for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always been that way for my family. Yeah. I'm happy to carry the burden. Yeah. And I will for the rest of my life.
It does have its downfalls for sure, though.
Yeah. But it's also made me so resilient. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't shy away from carrying the burden weight. My mom and sister showed up, and to see my mom cry at that level, like, shattered me. Yeah. Like, badly. Yeah. I've only seen her cry like twice in my life. One was at my SEAL graduation.
But that's happy tears.
Yeah. And this one was like shattered heart.
Yeah. Happy tears is way different than that. Yeah.
So I had like those thoughts in my mind, and I had to like, I couldn't even look at her.
Yeah.
I literally looked away and it was like crying in a corner.
Yeah.
That's how angry I was at my dad. And
they had already taken your dad to, like, he was already in custody at that point.
Yeah, he was in jail for like 2 or 3 months. And it's like, okay, I'm getting out of the military. Then I had a month of leave, so I was, that was August 2021. I was just living in my truck because I didn't have a place. I was living in my truck, training at Barrett's gym twice a day.
Yeah.
So I was doing jiu-jitsu.
Funny how jiu-jitsu's always there, huh?
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu's always there.
I was sleeping in my truck training, and my enlistment ended in October. And I was just doing 2 days at 10th Planet Orange with Mike John Cho. And I'm driving to jiu-jitsu, trying to figure shit out.
All this stuff is very recent, too. It's not that far removed.
It's not, yeah.
It's funny, not that our stories are similar. We have very different stories. But I feel like when I talk about things I've been through, like, I always talk about it, and people are like, oh, that must have been, like, so long ago. And it's like, no. Like, it's like 2021. It's only 2024.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And it takes years to process stuff like that. How was that process of processing? Because I know for me personally, I know maybe you're different. I went through crazy trauma shit. And then I just acted like it didn't happen. I trained, I fought when I shouldn't have fought. I trained when I shouldn't have been training. I was focusing on things I shouldn't have been focusing on. But for me, I was like, I'm not healing from this shit right now. Like, I can't even process that this stuff happened. Like, I'm still processing stuff that I've been through, when I was 15, 16, 17. And it's so easy to just, like, especially when you love something like jiu-jitsu, you're training twice a day, you're lifting, you're doing this, you're just like, all right, like, I don't got to think about that stuff. How was your process? Like, did you process right away? Did you push it off and then process? Are you still in that process of processing? Because that was a lot of shit that was thrown at you in like a very short span.
It's a really good question. To summarize it, it's compartmentalizing.
Yeah, compartmentalizing.
Yeah, so basically you're just putting it.
I'm a master at it.
I can't like.
I'm a master at it.
My grandma did it with my dad. She just put it in this like don't see box.
Yeah.
And it's gone, but it's
it
really
away.
Still there.
Yeah.
I was doing 2 days jiu-jitsu, and I was driving there, and I see this guy walking on the side of the road, like a half mile from my gym, skinny, like sluggish. And it was my dad.
Oh wow! On your way to training, just randomly on a random day.
Yeah.
Did you recognize him at all at first, or was he like unrecognizable?
He was unrecognizable from the back, and it's my dad. I should know him inside and out.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
And then I was driving, I did this, and I see his face, and I'm like,
shit. Yeah.
So I went from hating, I was so fucking angry at him.
Yeah.
To being like, I need to fucking help him.
Yeah.
Because he's my dad.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was seeing my dad homeless on the side of the street, and I was like, I need to help him.
Did you know at all, like, what he had been up to, or, like, were you in contact with him at all? Or I know you mentioned you were, like, holding, like, resentment in that sense. So did you completely separate yourself from him to, like, mentally deal with everything?
I had so much resentment and hatred. I got to a point where I thought I was having a stroke. Yeah. That's how angry I was. My blood was boiling, and I was like, borderline about to call the ambulance. I'm like, I think I'm dying.
Uncontrollable. Yeah.
Yeah. And
it's like heartbreak in a way, honestly.
What's that?
It's like heartbreak in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, you are still so fond of him, and you know that's not him, but it's like, that is what he's doing. So it's like, your mind is probably like, I don't know what to do with this information. You know what I mean?
So once I saw him, I didn't have contact with him. I thought he'd call me in the jail, but he didn't. So I was like thinking about that too. So I was doing 2 days jiu-jitsu, and this was like December 2021. I go to an open mat in January. So I'm like, okay, I need to heal myself before I heal anyone else because I'm fucked up.
So this is January 2022 then?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, I can't help them if I'm all fucked up. I need to heal myself first. Yeah. And I'm sitting there on a Sunday open mat at Orange that you've been to, both of you guys been to. Yeah. And
one of the best open mats locally, by the way. Just a plug. Just a little plug.
Orange. Let's go. And I won't say his name, but this dude just sits next to me on a knee between rounds, and he said, "Are you okay?" And I'm like,
"That's the worst question." I fucking hate when people ask me that. You okay? I'm just like,
but I've never
what do I say? Like, Especially, I think it's a lot different. Not to go on a little tangent, but I think it's a lot different for men. Because I think as a woman, people are more naturally to be sympathetic or empathetic towards you and to like kind of see that you're being a little emotional and be like, hey, like, are you good? You know, people are more nurturing towards women, especially like men. You know what I mean? If a man sees a woman who looks like she needs help or whatever, like you guys are always like, hey, like what's going on? But I feel like with men, it's different. Like other men are just like figured out, like we're all hurting. We're not, no one's talking about it. So who cares? You know what I mean? So that's crazy that was one of the first times someone's been like, hey man, like, are you all right?
And it was bizarre. It was like he sat
out of nowhere,
said that, and then we started talking about psychedelics. Yeah. Don't know how. I don't remember how exactly. Yeah. And I said I've done psilocybin before and psilocybin mushrooms, and it helped me. It was beneficial. And he brought up ayahuasca medicine, and I was like, oh, I've heard that on the Rogan podcast, and I know of it. And he said, I think it would help you for what you're going through. He didn't even know of the situation. Yeah. That's how in tune we were. Yeah. Like subconsciously. Yeah. And I said, I'm fucking in. Yeah. I need something. I need
like, at this point, I'll take anything. Yeah.
It's crazy to think about, like, it happened in August. So it was only a few months. And then he showed up in my life. Yeah. And I said, yes.
Are you guys still close to this day?
Amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah. You know him. Okay. So this was January 2022. And after processing, getting information, June, so like 5 months later, I ended up doing ayahuasca medicine with him and other people.
Did you like go out to Joshua Tree and everything?
This one was in LA. Okay. At this like, I was like, LA, ayahuasca, that is
I know, yeah.
It was at this like most beautiful Airbnb with like a garden and like trees. And
see, that's nice. See, I feel like I've never done psychedelics. Like just disclaimer, I'm not against them at all. Like I'm just intimidated. But I feel like from everyone I've heard that has done them, they say like the setting and your intention is the biggest thing. Where you're at, who you're with, what you see, what your intention is or goal is with doing it, you know? So that's actually pretty cool because I've always heard of people just going in the middle of nowhere to Joshua Tree. I'm like, that sounds so intimidating. Like just going to the middle of nowhere and being like, I'm trapped. Oh no, I can't get away. But you're just in LA, so that's not too bad.
That's like you were saying, set and setting. So like where you are, it was beautiful in the setting, and the shaman that would let it. I was driving to the fucking in LA, and I was like borderline gonna turn around and go home.
I hate LA.
I was intimidated. And scared. Yeah. I was like, I'm scared of like SEAL training.
You're about to face all your demons though. That's why you're so scared. Yeah.
So eventually I said, fuck it. I parked at the house and I borderline turned my car back on and go back home. I sat there and I took a photo. I'll show you after this. I was sitting there, just took a selfie. I'm like, this is
documenting this. I'm documenting this.
So I went inside the house and it felt so protected and safe and guided. And the guy said to write down intentions on a notepad before I came. We had weekly lunches leading up to this. And my first thing on the list, let go of the hatred towards my dad. That was the first thing. Yeah. So the ayahuasca ceremony is a weekend. You show up Friday. You do the ayahuasca medicine Friday, Saturday, and you go home Sunday. So Friday night comes, sun's going down. We take our first drink. We're saying prayers, say our intentions. And I'm sitting there, and there's 20 people that are also getting healed. There's 10 women on one side of the room, 10 men on one side, and the shaman on the left-hand side playing music, singing, praying. It was magical. Amazing.
Are you religious at all, by the way?
I am, yeah.
You are?
I went to Catholic church because I was like told to go. Yeah. But I've always had a strong faith. I'm always talking to someone and praying about something.
Because I know you mentioned God a few times, so I was just curious.
Yeah. So there's 10 women on one side, 10 men on the other side. And I'm sitting there in my chair on the ground, with candle lit. And we're in the living room with the doors closed. And it felt like a 50-mile-an-hour gust was inside the room. And I was like, who the fuck opened the door during the ceremony?
Yeah.
Or turned the fan on. And I popped my eye open, one eye open.
Yeah.
Fan was off, the door was closed. I was like, that's fucking weird.
Were you skeptical at all during?
Skeptical how so?
Like, you're like, what's going on here? Like, did you trust it fully, or were you kind of like...
During that experience or in general?
In general. Like, leading up to it. The moments before you were like, all right, let's just do it. Were you, like, all in on it, or were you like, I don't know if this is just going to work?
I was all in on the guy who I was trusting.
Yeah, which makes sense. Yeah.
There was zero hesitation.
Yeah.
I was fully open.
Yeah.
Sitting with my eyes closed, and then the gust hit me in the face. Mm-hmm. There was no window open, and then I opened my eyes one more time, and all the women were crying in unison, like weeping loud, blowing air at me. And I was like looking at them like, what the fuck? It's like, okay, just stay in it. And I just opened my eyes again. All their women like nurturing, like you said a second ago. Mm-hmm. Only something that a woman can give, like nurturing, like love.
Yeah.
That I've like closed off for so long. I didn't even I forgot about.
Yeah.
And all their like energy went in the middle of the room. And I watched it slowly. And I looked at my stomach and I saw fire in my stomach. And all their women like love, like pushed the fire through my neck and my head fell backwards. And my eyes opened and flamethrowers flew out of my eyes. And I like watched my dad's hatred like leave me a body.
That's crazy.
In like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was gone forever.
And you've never, ever since then, you've just let go of that.
Gone.
Yeah. Which is probably the most freeing feeling ever.
I still get
because I feel like sometimes like that resentment, like, I mean, I still hold resentment. I mean, I think it's not normal to hold resentment, but it's like when you've been put through certain things, obviously it's more normal. You're more inclined to hold resentment. My problem is I don't want to let it go. I'm like, I'm not ready to let it go. But it doesn't affect my like everyday life. Like I'm not sitting here like this isn't someone in my life. This isn't someone I think of. Like, you know what I mean? This is just like but I think it is some kind of burden on you to carry that resentment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was carrying it, but I didn't care how like heavy it was for me.
Yeah. Because you're also like shielding your mom and sisters and everyone from it too.
Exactly.
So you're like carrying their burden for it too, and you're like, no, everything's fine. And you're like, fuck, like, everything's not fine. You know what I mean?
You said exactly what I was gonna say. Like you nailed it.
Yeah.
I wasn't there to like heal myself. I was there to heal my family, but I needed to heal myself first.
Yeah.
So I was carrying my families, my mom, my twin sisters, and my older brother. Like, because they just said "fuck you" to my dad.
Are you the oldest?
I'm the youngest.
Oh my gosh! Wow, that completely derails what I was gonna say. Because I'm the oldest, and I always felt that responsibility to like kind of shield and like I've got like the worst end of the stick, I would say, from like growing up trauma and stuff like that. But I've always haven't been afraid. Like you said, like we have different experiences, but like you said, like shielding that and taking that and being like, no, I'm fine. And then behind the scenes, you're like, I don't know, this is kind of rough, you know what I mean? But like they don't know that it's rough because you're just like, no, like don't worry, like, but you get so used to it almost too that you're just like, it's all right, like, just throw something else on the plate, why not? Like, what's another thing at this point? Like, you know, I've been tested so much that it's like. You could tell me the crazy stuff right now and I'd be like, wow, cool. Like, all right, how are we moving on from this? Because, But I think it's really cool that you physically felt that and experienced. Because I couldn't imagine the relief that felt, especially in like the first 10 minutes. Like immediately you're like, oh, okay, thank fucking God.
It was, because like I said earlier in the pod, it was like, I was heartless when my SEAL buddies died in training, you're like, it didn't affect me much.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what like love meant anymore, what it felt like. And
I'm sure you got a lot of it growing up from what you said. Yeah.
My parents are like...
It was just like the way you conditioned your brain to serve in the military.
My goal was to be a protector.
Yeah.
Which is why I joined the military. And then when I left, now I'm protecting my family.
Yeah.
And then they were all fucking mad and sad and hateful. And I was like, I need to protect them from not feeling that way.
Yeah.
So I felt all that like love again, and my anger towards my dad was gone. That was Friday night. Went to bed. The first time I slept in like a long time.
Like peacefully. Yeah.
I woke up and we have a share circle where you share your experience. And I'm sitting there with the ayahuasca vine, like crying in front of a bunch of people, like not caring.
When was the last time you had cried in front of someone like that? Because I know you said like you couldn't look at your mom, like you cried, looked away, like you couldn't like let them see you like that. Like when was the last time you remember crying in front of someone like that?
That's a really good question.
See, these are the woman questions.
Yeah,
these are questions that the men won't ask you.
I really love that. In 2018,
because I cry all the time. I'm a crier. Ask Aaron, I cry. I'm a crier.
In 2018, one of my closest guys I went through buds with, Justin Peg, like super tight. I brought him to like Thanksgiving and my family and stuff. 2018. So I just like went on deployment, and like he went to the East Coast. I stayed on the West Coast SEAL teams. Mm-hmm. So there's a little disconnect of time of communication. Mm-hmm. And he ended up killing himself. So, and I like read the message in front of my SEAL platoon, and I was crying. So that was the last time. Yeah. But it doesn't happen often.
So it's just one thing after another, though.
Yeah, just death and
more death and more coming home and
and then I was thinking about the what ifs. I'm not a what if type person, but I was thinking, what if?
Are you an overthinker or no?
No, I'm not an overthinker. I'm a deep thinker.
I'm an overthinker.
I don't overthink a situation, but I'm like thinking about it like deeply. I don't know if that makes sense, but so let me pause. I'm gonna think about what I was gonna say.
We were talking about after your first day, you're sitting there crying in front of everyone.
Yeah, then
talking about your experience.
All right, it'll come back to me.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, Justin killed himself, and I felt like a burden. I was like, why the fuck didn't you keep contact with him? Yeah. Because if I
noticed a trend that you feel that a lot, or you felt that a lot, like growing up and like even with that. And I feel like when you do put yourself in leadership positions or positions of someone who will carry that weight, it is easy to feel like that burden because you always feel like you need to be in control. You know what I mean? And you're like, I could have stopped this, or like, this was my fault. And it's like, straight up, none of that was your fault. Like, your dad relapsing wasn't your fault, your friend committing suicide. But I understand how in that moment, you're very much like, I could have done better, or that was because of me. Like, when you put yourself in that position to hold that weight, you're going to carry it every time. You know what I mean?
So the woman's perspective comes in again.
That is the woman's perspective.
I didn't have the thoughts you were saying until like a year after I got out.
Oh, yeah.
Someone posted, another SEAL, Remy did, about forgiving yourself. And I was like, what the fuck can I forgive myself? Yeah. And I read it like 40 times. Yeah. And eventually I was like, I need to forgive myself for not being there for Justin, or for not being there for my dad. Like, I can't control everything.
No, especially the past.
Yeah. Yeah. So the last time I felt the crying in front of someone was in front of Justin, or in front of my SEAL platoon for Justin. And then that was Friday night of the ayahuasca. Slept great. Woke up Saturday ready for round 2. Yeah.
How was round 2 compared to round 1? Because I feel like round 1's almost like you can't top it, because it's like the number one thing on your list. You're like, okay, that I already accomplished what I wanted to. So you're like, hey, day 2, whatever it wants to bring me, it can bring me. Was that kind of like the way you went into it? You were like, I already solved what I need to solve, but I'm not opposed to more things being solved. You know what I mean?
I was extremely open-minded and receptive to anything that...
Which is so fucking important for everything in life. Like, being open-minded. Because I feel like that's the only way shit works.
So the first thing was resentment. Mm-hmm. The second thing was to connect closer to God. Mm-hmm. So Saturday night, and my third thing was to help my dad.
get back on his feet kind of thing.
Yeah, and I didn't know how that looked. But
Yeah.
Saturday I was sitting there, and I took a bigger dose this time. I went to the 10, like full moon shot, and sitting there, eyes closed, flying through cosmic space, kind of like the Pink Corner podcast, like pink colors, like cosmic,
vibrant, everything. Yeah.
But I wasn't a person. I was like first person point of view. I was like an energy flying through space at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And then I felt the most peace I've ever felt in my life. And I said, where am I? And this voice said, he started laughing at me. And I was like, this fucking shaman laughing at me? Like,
who is laughing at me?
He's sitting there playing music. I'm like, okay, back in it. And I said, what is this place? And he said, what do you mean? And I said, this is the most beautiful place I've ever been to.
Heaven.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because you had the Reaper on your door not that long ago, and it's like the complete opposite of that.
Another good point.
That's crazy.
I'll get to that in a second. Good point. And he said, this is where you came from, and this is where you're going to go to when you die. And I said, I'm in heaven right now.
Yeah.
And then I felt like I could keep going farther.
Yeah.
And the only thing that stopped me going from farther was I was thinking about my family and friends. I said, I can't leave them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, my job's not done yet.
My job's not done.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that was check number 2. I met God. I healed my dad's hatred.
Yeah.
Number 3 was I just said a prayer for them. I said, I didn't have any communication with my dad for like 3 months prior to the ceremony.
Yeah.
I prayed that he'd be willing to get help and he would ask for help. This was Saturday night. Saturday night happens. Sunday, we talk, share a circle. I go to Jiu Jitsu Monday. And Mike John looked at me and he said, did you get eye contacts? Why'd your eyes change colors? And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, your eyes are different colors.
You're just like a whole different person.
I'll show you a photo that you could share on the podcast.
Yeah.
About before when I accepted death and then when I was released from everything. And
it's like
my
life
eyes
got breathed into you.
Back.
Yeah.
And I was like,
which actually makes sense because you had completely not convinced yourself, but like accepted and like maybe even convinced yourself, I don't know, that you were going to die, be a Navy SEAL. Like you convince yourself like, I'm going to die doing this. Like I will die doing this. Like, and I am okay with that. But it's crazy to think that, do you think any mental preparation, like, I'm willing to die, do you think that negatively affected you as a human being? Obviously, as a Navy SEAL, I'm sure it fucking helped you a lot. But as a human being, and I think a lot of people have a problem separating their identity and what they do. Like, I am a fighter, but I am a human. And I feel like for a long time, I wasn't a human. I'm just a fighter. I have one job. My job is who I am. And it's like, but the decisions you make for, being a Navy SEAL or being a fighter are not the best decisions for you as a person. And I understand there come sacrifices and things like that, whether it's being a Navy SEAL or fighting or whatever, but it's like you are also a fucking human being. If you're not taking care of, like, you as a person, like, what are you?
Yeah.
My
identity was wrapped around being a Navy SEAL, but
yeah,
all along, that wasn't the purpose.
Yeah.
I think I was meant to go through that to protect my country.
Yeah.
But to have such a laundry list of experience, like my mom said this the other day that like maybe like I'm still like
shaky from it. Yeah.
Yeah, I get goosebumps. She said, Zach, my mom doesn't talk like this. She's like, you're 30 years old. My birthday was in January. But you're 150 years old. That's how much life you've lived in your 30 years. And I was like, Mom told me this is crazy.
Yeah. You're like, it must be real because she told me that. Yeah.
I think the broader purpose, the big picture is to help share my story, to help open people up, or to help heal them. Yeah. Or give them perspective. I'm not telling people to do psych dog therapy. Yeah. That's not what I'm doing. Yeah. I'm just sharing my story in hopes that it maybe will alter your mind or maybe give you open your doors to help healing yourself. That's
you don't have to hold on to that resentment. You don't have to hold on.
Yeah,
to
you
that
don't have
negative
to.
ass shit. Yeah.
Like, there's a solution to it.
Yeah.
I was like a knucklehead in high school, like emo kid, didn't talk to anyone, threw water balloons at cop cars, like was like barely past high school to like where I am now. If I could do any of this, then like anybody can. So, my whole purpose was to be a protector, and that's
which is crazy because now that you even do firearms courses, you are still in that same role, just like a different genre of it, but it's the same thing. Like, you feel like you've always been in that role of like being a protector or being that person who helps people. You know what I mean? And like what you do now is still that. You know what I mean? Like, even I've done a few gun courses, like pistol courses. I feel like I had no actual knowledge about guns. I had obviously like went to indoor ranges or even outdoor stuff and just like shot guns that I had, but I didn't know anything about how to handle a weapon, how to safely handle a weapon, how to have confidence in handling that weapon, like practice and I think and this goes for a lot of things, but like, let's say women's self-defense, like that's like a whole other topic I can go on a tangent about, or like, shooting, like you have to have confidence in what you're doing in order to execute the correct way. And if I, as a woman, am trying to carry a firearm to protect myself, I need to know how to use it. I need to feel safe around it. I need to know how to check if it's loaded. I need to know how to turn the safety on and off, how to reload it, like how to aim, how to shoot. Like, what's the point of having a weapon if you don't know how to use it? And it's like, for someone like me who, like, I have a very, traumatic past, and for me, I believe nothing could have stopped what I went through besides maybe, a firearm. But I didn't know how to use it. Wasn't confident in using it. So now you're allowing, and you do all kinds of courses. I'm just specifically talking about the ones I've been to, which is predominantly women courses. But you're giving this confidence to like a minority group in society, and being a woman, and giving that confidence to them and teaching them to like protect themselves. Mm-hmm. So you're like playing that protector role, but you're teaching us how to protect ourselves, which is kind of like a cool, like, for full circle kind of moment for you, I'm sure.
It is.
You know what I mean?
It kind of, while you're on the topic, it brings up a question that I get asked a lot is, what's like your favorite quote or biggest life lesson you've learned?
Yeah.
And it's not a person who said it. It's just like a thought that came to mind. I have no idea if someone said it. It's like, no one's coming to save you. You have to learn how to save yourself. Yeah. And I've like kept repeating that. It's like my mantra. Yeah. So. And
the cool thing is you can help people learn how to save themselves.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you're not on your own. Like, I got you. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, jiu-jitsu, Mike John saw that veil lifted from my face, and I finished practice, and I haven't talked to my dad in 3 months, and I get a phone call from an unknown number. And usually I just delete. I just say no. Yeah. I was like, fuck it. And it was him from the jail. And he's like, I'm ready to get help.
And you're like, wow.
I was like, I just prayed about this like 48 hours prior. And he said,
everything's just falling into place.
Yeah. Yeah. And he said yes to ayahuasca therapy. Wow. So
how was that experience? Were you there with him or no?
No. So he went to the same shaman. He had like conversation with them. Mm-hmm. And I went in June 2022. He went in October 2022. Okay. Not that long.
Not that long, a few months, yeah.
And he went there, and he finished the ceremony, and I had lunch with him Wednesday the following week, and he said something I'll never forget. He's like, I'm 70 years old. I have a wife and 4 kids. As a son, this was the best thing you've ever done for me.
Was that like a full circle moment for you, for like everything you had carried? I know you let go of the resentment, but I'm sure like you're a human. So I'm sure like, when you said like, oh, he relapsed the first time, I felt responsible for that. Like, I'm sure you still, as a human, felt some stuff from that, Did hearing him say that, like, not reverse those, but like lift that weight of like, I'm not that burden. Like, I'm not that cause. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I am the help. Like, I provided for him now in ways that he used to be able to like provide for me, like returning that, you know what I mean?
I'm a reflection of him.
Yeah.
He's done so much for me, and it's just now we just switch roles, and now I'm helping him instead of him helping me.
Yeah.
And in a way that he is helping me, I'm not mad at him for the house fire.
Yeah.
I'm almost in a weird way glad because it has put me through so much turmoil and my family through that. Like I have this story that's healed and I could share it with people and it's gonna resonate with them. Yeah. So he did the ceremony and he's been sober since then, and that was October 2022. That's amazing. A year and a half.
And he struggled for a while, right? Because from the timeline you said he was like, but even like consistently from that timeline you said it was like for a little while. That's impressive. That's amazing.
So addiction runs our family.
Yeah.
His brothers in Boston, Mass. I don't know if you know about Charlestown, but the big thing with them in like the 80s was robbing banks, armed robberies. Yeah. And they like were doing armed robberies. And actually a few months ago, I get this text on Facebook and it was like, "Hey, my name's Uncle blah, blah, blah. Nice to meet you." I was like, "The fuck are you?"
Who was that?
It was my dad's brother.
Wow. You never met him? Yeah.
He's like, "I just got out of prison. I did 35 years.
Oh, shit.
And I was like, "Nice to meet you." And
respectfully.
Yeah. You said something about the Reaper a second ago. So the Reaper showed up in my life before I went to the military, this dark figure during SEAL training. And then I wear like this Reaper mask and I was like shooting with it. And I posted it on Facebook and he said, "That's a cool photo. I used to wear the same photo doing armed robberies in Boston."
Oh, that's crazy.
And I was like, "What?" I was like diving into what the Reaper is. Yeah. I didn't even tell you this yet. So the Reaper was in my life all along. Yeah. I showed up to my SEAL platoon, SEAL Team 7. And we have the logos, like pictures of what each platoon is. Guess what my platoon was? The Reaper, yeah. Yeah, so I have the Green Reaper tattooed on me.
That's like, so if you, for those you don't, I mean, if you see his Instagram, you'll know. But that's his, like, his nickname, his image is like the Reaper. You have like rash guards with it and merch with it, yeah.
It's weird because I didn't tell anybody my backstory when I was training at Orange when I first got out. Yeah. I didn't have social media. And they were like, "Damn, you're a fucking Reaper on the mats." I'm like, "What the fuck?"
Whoa. Who have you been talking to?
I had no social media. Yeah. And I was like, I researched it and it's basically like the person who like represents death. Yeah. And not death in a bad way, but in like, the Reaper like came down from heaven to, like, I'm not saying I'm this person, an angel or whatever, came down from heaven to fight evil. Yeah. You know, for the greater good. And like my purpose is protect people. And that's it.
And he said, "Oh yeah, I used to use that." You're like, "Okay, wow." That's insane.
It's crazy. We have a great relationship. Actually, yeah, we have a great relationship. And then the uncle got out of prison. I'm slowly talking to him. I'm hopefully meet him someday. Yeah. So we've talked about my dad a lot. Yeah. My sisters and my brother. We haven't talked about them. We talked about my dad.
I've met. So he has a set of twin sisters. I've met both of them at the gun courses. I've met one of each. Yeah.
That's awesome.
They're very similar, but very opposite at the same time. But I don't think I didn't even know you had a brother, to be honest. I mean, we've never talked about it, so that's probably why. But yeah.
You know they're twins.
Yeah.
They're
I know
identical twins.
Yeah.
But they're like.
Yeah. I remember the first time I saw one of them, they were like, "Yeah, we're twins, but like we're very different." They're like, our personalities, everything about us is very different, but they're both very cool. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm glad you guys, like, it's all coming for us, so first full circle. So everyone hates my dad at this point. I'm healed. He's healed. My mom, I'm not a woman that has been in a 40-year marriage, so I don't know how she feels.
I'm sure it's a completely different experience for her, but
yeah. Which is why I'm like super excited to talk to you about it. Yeah, you're a woman. Yeah. I almost forgot about her, how she feels.
Which I think it's hard when you are in the thick of traumatic experiences. It's easy to take the burden on for other people, but it's harder to actually sit and think about how each individual person is like feeling. It's like almost like you're an umbrella for them, but you're not like, you're like an umbrella over all of them. You're not like individually like, are you okay? Are you okay? Like, let me check in with you. How can, because you don't have the mental or physical or emotional capacity to do that. How am I supposed to be there for you, if I can't even be there for myself? But I can try to like deflect everything for you. You know what I mean? So you're like absorbing everything, but you're not like individually. But it's hard because it's like a survival mechanism. You could be the shield, but it's like, how are you supposed to like, if you can't be there for yourself, which you weren't, you know what I mean? You didn't know how to process it. And how are you supposed to be there for every individual person? You're not you're not a superhero, you know what I mean? Like, you're like, I'm still a human, like, you know, so I get how that feels, and I can, you know, relate in that sort of aspect where it's like, yeah, like I can protect, but it's like, I'm not individually being like, so how do you feel about this? How do you feel about this? Because honestly, I can't take it. I can't help you in that sense. I can't emotionally process what you're telling me and give you a good answer. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? So I feel like it's hard to like be there for yourself while also shielding everyone. But it's easy to like forget, like, oh, I forgot to ask my mom, like, how are you doing during this? Because you're just trying to survive. You know what I mean?
Those are the words those are literally the words I said.
Yeah.
I forgot about my mom.
Yeah.
And
which I'm sure brought out more guilt. No.
Yes.
Yeah.
So 2023, this is like
recent. Yes. Yeah.
Summertime. I was like, I fucking forgot about my mom.
It was just like an epiphany, you like random, like, oh fuck, one day.
Yeah. Me and my mom are fucking super tight.
Yeah. And of course she's never gonna like burden you.
Yeah.
With that, yeah.
And I was talking to her, and I brought up MDMA therapy, which I've done.
Mm-hmm. What's that exactly?
Like it releases serotonin in your brain, and it specifically helps like PTSD for not just combat veterans or veterans, but people in general.
Yeah.
And marriage reconnecting. And she said no, because she's stuck in her old ways.
Old school. Yeah.
That. She said no for so long. I worked on this for like a year and a half, and then I stopped asking her to do it. Yeah. And I just went to her apartment and I said these words. I started like crying in front of her, and I'm not even purposefully. I said, I'm very hurt looking at you. Yeah. About how hurt you are.
It's almost like you have to do that with moms.
Yeah, it was
like you're hurting me being hurt. Like you have to, but that's like a mom thing. I feel like for a mom to be like, all right, now I got to do it. Because like, oh, I didn't know, like I was hurting myself when I knew that, but I can't hurt my child. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's like a motherly like instinct. So she's probably like, oh, damn. All right.
I didn't even ask her
now I got to do it. Yeah.
So I went home and she called me the next day and she said, I'm ready. Yeah. So that was like July 2023. So I set her up with a therapist, MDMA therapist that works with a lot of SEALs and combat veterans. Mm-hmm. And she said yes all the way up until December. This is 4 months ago. And that's she crazy. Backed out.
Oh no. In December. So close.
And I was like, fuck.
So close.
Fast forward 3 weeks. It's January 11th. It's my birthday. Yeah. Capricorn season. I'm sitting there. I'm sitting there at night, and I go on the news, or I go on Signal, and someone texted me something, and he said 2 of your SEAL buddies died.
Oh shit! On your birthday?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
So we're talking about the Yemen waters shipboarding. Mm-hmm. Ingram and Chris Chambers were boarding a ship at night, and one of them fell off, and his buddy jumped in after him, and they were both of them. Yeah. And the same night, the therapist called me, and she said, "Do you know what today is?" And I said, "No." She said, "It's a full moon." I'm not like super into astrology or zodiac signs.
I think that's just kind of crazy though.
Yes.
Sometimes it adds up a little too well, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know about that.
Too coincidental.
It's like today you're gonna feel like this, and I'm like, damn, that's so right.
I couldn't ignore it.
Yeah.
She called me, and then my mom called me, and then we had a three-way face call the next day.
With your therapist?
Yeah, me, my mom, and the therapist, and my mom committed again. So February was her MDMA therapy date. Like 4 days prior, or 2 days prior before the ceremony, I stayed up the whole time because I was like, I can't have her back out. So I was communicating. I was going to her apartment.
Especially because she backed out the first time. So
and I was sitting there like 2 days up, almost 3, and it's 9 a.m. She actually doesn't know about this. So let me think for a second.
So, Mom, if you're watching this, stop watching it right now for a couple seconds.
Actually, I think I'm going to share it. Just because I think it's cool. She doesn't even know this, my mom. Yeah, I'm going to do it. Fuck it. All right. My therapist asked me one request. Mm-hmm. She said, I would like you to gather handwritten letters from everybody in your family. I said, for what? She said, I want your mom to read them during the ceremony. I said, copy. That's everyone in my family, my uncles, my dad, everybody mailed and written hand letters to me.
Wow.
And
that's really cool.
I got all of them. And I wrote one myself. And my mom showed up at 9 a.m. on the ceremony date. I said, Mom, I have a gift for the therapist. This is for her. And it was the letters, but she didn't know about that. And it said the therapist's name on it. Said, give this to your therapist. I said, cool. Gave her a hug. She went down there, did the ceremony. And the therapist said, I would like you to stay up and I'm going to update you during the ceremony about how your mom.
It's probably nice.
Yeah.
Little updates here and there. Yeah.
So I was 3 days awake.
Oh, God.
And
I've been up for like 2.5 before and I'm delusional.
And the therapist sends me a picture of my mom. And I start like crying, madly crying. Happy tears.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was her reading like letters.
Yeah.
From our family.
Were her and your father together at that point or had they like separated? If that's not too invasive. Because I know
you go deep as you want.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I know you were saying about how she kind of turned a blind eye at first, but then your dad was like on the streets. He was in jail. Like, were they not together at that point? I mean, maybe they were still like technically married, but like, were they together?
Ever since I moved them from the hotel room for the fire, they have been separated since.
Which is also something crazy for you to probably try to process. Grown adult and seeing your and it's not because they fell out of love or anything like that. You know what I mean? It's all strictly because of the battle with addiction.
Yeah.
That's.
So this was in February. Mm-hmm. What is it, April?
Yeah.
Like few months,
yeah.
And I was sitting there 3 days awake reading these texts and letters and pictures from the therapist, like crying uncontrollably on my bed by myself. And like the most happy I felt. And then she called me that night and she just was like, just let everything out, which she doesn't talk openly.
Yeah. Moms don't.
And I was so like happy to hear that. And it was like an hour call, and then I slept for like.
I slept so good, huh?
Guess how long I slept for?
I'm gonna say 4 days.
I slept for 21 hours straight.
I totally overshot that. I said 4 days.
21 hours.
I said it so confident. No, 20. Yeah, that's crazy. That's 21
crazy. Hours. And
probably just like all that weight lifted off too, though. Because I feel like you finally got all that weight off at your dad, and you're like, my mom, what did I do? And it's like, now you have that weight and you're like, fuck, okay. And then you get that off your shoulders and you're like, okay, now I can breathe.
There's a little piece that I haven't shared. My other sister, not the one with Crohn's, was pregnant during my Yemen deployment.
Really?
She had the baby on the day of the house fire.
Oh, fuck.
So my dad hasn't met my niece.
To this day?
He hadn't met her up until, so I was carrying the weight of everybody.
Yeah.
And my dad hasn't met his granddaughter.
Wow.
And so I was hitting my sister. I'm like, hey, like.
That's also crazy because like you're dealing with all this sadness, and then you're also dealing with like, that's so happy. Like that's such a cool thing. You know what I mean? Like now you're an uncle. Like
yeah.
I got a little one running around. Like you know what I mean? So it's like happy and. Yeah. Bittersweet. So much bittersweet. You're like, how do I feel? Like, how am I supposed to feel?
All the human emotions just wrapped in together. So I talked to my sister, and I eventually got to a point where I was able to mediate a lunch between them. She said, I'm not going to meet Dad unless you're there. I said, I'll go there.
Yeah. So
I was there with them, like us, and I was just watching and took some photos, and they had like the best meet ever.
Yeah.
And now they talk every day.
Yeah.
So my dad's met my niece. He's reconnected with one of my sisters. He
Sober
still talks
now.
to my mom.
Yeah.
My brother, not quite yet. My other sister, not quite yet, but I'm getting there.
Everything's a work in progress.
Yeah.
I mean, understandably so. Like, especially as a child, like, your parents are there to protect you. So when you feel kind of, not betrayed, but, like, you know what I mean? Like, when you feel a little wronged by your parents or you feel like it was, like, selfish or this or that. Like, it's easy to hold those grudges, but things take time.
Yeah.
And, like, you being open and you healing, I'm sure is only doing good for that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
So that's actually present day.
Yeah.
I talked to my dad before this. So life's good, man. And then I was doing jiu-jitsu and I did the ayahuasca medicine. And then I saw something online about an open mat for veterans. I was like, oh, fuck yeah. It was that classic fight team.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, I'm in. Showed up there at Tyler Wommel's gym, classic. And I met this guy, Angel Cortez.
This guy.
Yeah.
I met this guy, Angel Cortez.
Yeah. I didn't know who he was at the time.
No, yeah, no.
And
I think it's funny because you guys are so, like, close now. But it's like, I met this guy.
This was like, this was like September 2022. And his company, OG Pumpkin, started doing rounds. Texted online. He said, do you want to come teach a pistol course with me in January 2023? And I said, sure. So I just shot a pistol course as an instructor.
Yeah.
And then he asked me again. I'm like, yeah, absolutely, dude. Like, Veterans Collide, like your Ranger. Yeah. Fuck yeah. Rangers lead the way. And then he asked me again. And then we had lunch, me, him, and Mike O'Dowd. And Mike O'Dowd was the founder of Defense Strategies Group, of course he's went to. Mm-hmm. He was my third phase instructor in Buds.
That's crazy. So it's Zach, Mike, and Angel that are the three instructors of DSG, and Mike was his instructor for Buds. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. That's super cool though.
Isn't that crazy?
That's really crazy. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that's such a nice or like a cool dynamic too. Like, you know what I mean?
So I left the military abruptly. The brotherhood, the guys that would take a bullet for you, was gone. Yeah,
just like, and not even gone, but just like pulled out. Like you, like not expected, not like, because I'm sure even when you went home, I'm sure you didn't like get on the plane and be like, all right, this is gonna be the last time. For you, you're probably like, all right, like I'll fix it and I'll go back. Like, you know, so it was just like pulled from you and you're just like,
yeah,
what the fuck? What now? You know what I mean?
I had no time to process my transition to civilian life.
Yeah.
So the burden and weight transition life was all just dumped on me. And it's not a pity story like we were saying. It's just like I'm just sharing my experience. Yeah. And hopefully it connects with people. Yeah. So I rolled with Angel. They invited me to a bunch of courses and they asked me to be an instructor. Mm-hmm. So now I'm with me, Angel Cortez, and Mike O'Dowd at Defense Strategies Group. Yeah. And like my purpose is fulfilled. I'm there for my family and like I've never been happier in my life.
So this is how it was meant to be.
Yeah.
This is how it's meant. I mean, I think it's just so crazy that like everything kind of made a full circle, you know? I feel like you've had the same longing your whole life. Mm-hmm. And everything you've done has been like a different genre of that. But it's like nothing quite took. And now this is like all the puzzle pieces are just kind of like coming together.
They are.
Yeah. And that does wonders for like healing too. Yeah. Seeing everything click, you're like, okay, like I'm doing the right things. Like everything's going right. Like I'm doing the right things. I'm making the right moves. It builds that confidence. Like, you know what I mean? Because I think when things go wrong, it's easy to kind of be like, fuck, like, what am I doing? What is going on here? What are they doing? Like, how can I help them? And now you're like, okay, like everything's kind of just like.
Yeah. A chick jiu-jitsu friend said a word to me like in December, synchronicities. Like the universe is in sync with you. And I was like, you're talking about astrology science. You're crazy. But I'm open-minded into receiving new information and learning. Yeah. We were at a show together at Petco Park. Mm-hmm. The same place where I picked with the FaceTime call, my dad. Yeah. And we were watching a DJ play on the big screen. There's visuals on the screen. And one of my favorite DJs, this is Happy New Year's Eve. Should be like bright colors and like good vibes. Yeah. And it was a video of a house burning.
Oh my God, Jesus Christ.
And there was a
what the hell?
Chair in the middle of the living room where my dad did it, but the chair was empty and he wasn't sitting in it. And it was almost like the hell? God or the universe telling me like, he's not here. He's safe and okay.
Yeah.
You are where you need to be.
That's crazy.
I can't make this shit up. I swear. I literally have a photo. I could show you after.
Were you tripping?
I looked at it.
I would have been like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, this can't be real. Did you tell them something? Like,
swear.
did you say something? Like,
in the friend group I was with, they didn't know the story.
Okay.
Except for this one jiu-jitsu friend.
Yeah.
I looked at her and we didn't say a damn
and she
word.
She's probably like.
We looked at each other like this, and then we looked back at the screen like,
damn.
We're all in sync.
That's crazy.
So, the latest, I'm with DSG. Mike and Angel have been like.
How has that been healing for you as well? Like having that camaraderie and obviously like-minded people who have experienced similar things or been through their own versions of trials and tribulations, like finding that connection there too. Because I'm sure they struggle with not similar like experiences, but similar like ideas and concepts and stuff like that. And Angel too is very open. Even in our first podcast, we talked about that a lot, like mental health with veterans and like people who don't want to ask for help or don't want to be vulnerable because you're taught like, oh, you're a pussy if you do, So even having people that also have that mindset of like, hey, are you good? Like, you know what I mean? I think that's important too.
It is. I literally like can't thank them enough. Like, I get chills thinking about like those two.
Yeah.
Like, I'll take a bullet for those dudes. No hesitation, any day of the week, any day, anytime.
Yeah.
Like, they mean so much to me. And like, my purpose is to be a protector. Now I'm able to share what I learned in the military for civilians or anybody to help better defend themselves. Like, you came to a course, you're able to shoot a firearm in case someone breaks in your house and tries to kill you.
Yeah.
So that purpose and is all the same.
Yeah.
But like, I like my life. Like, I'll give my life to those dudes.
Yeah. You guys are also very like fun dynamic. I feel like
we're really
like you're all three different, but you're three different, but you all like complement each other as well. Like, but you guys are very serious, but you also have personality. And I think something that's a little intimidating, especially for like I feel like women doing pistol courses, is you're always like, oh, it's a guy teaching, like he's gonna be a hard ass, like, oh, they're like ex-military, like are they gonna be drill instructors? And it's like, no, like. They're normal guys with crazy life experiences. Don't get me wrong. You guys are, anyone in the military, I feel like you guys are crazy. In all the best ways, but you guys are fucking nuts. Because most people, including myself, I would never do that. But you guys are also like very welcoming and very, like you're human, and I think that's something that a lot of people don't expect when they're like doing a firearms course. They're like, and I'm sure like, depending on who you're teaching, your level of like seriousness goes up. You know what I mean? If you're teaching someone who's actually serving at the moment and like needs to be on the shit, I'm sure you're like, but I think it's really cool. You guys have a really good dynamic and you guys like run very good courses. I've only experienced the women's one, but I've heard of like your sniper one. I heard that was like super cool to watch, people camouflaging themselves, you teaching them how to do that. I'm sure that's cool, you know what I mean? Yeah. But it's kind of, I remember Angel talking about like how, vets coming together was super healing for him as well. And it's cool to see. Yeah.
Like, so Mike O'Dowd, he created a defense strategies group, not to create a business. Mm-hmm. And as I dug deeper, he created it to build meaningful jobs for veterans, for veterans to like have purpose in their life. Mm-hmm. In which I needed. Yeah. So like, I wear like a DSG hat. Like this dude founded like how selfless that like that is to like create a business to help other people. Yeah. So like, I'm like forever grateful for being a part of. Is it only you three right now? It's like I've seen like little like spin-offs, but we have some dudes in the other states like Alex Fitchler lives in Montana. He's DSG. Yeah. Nate Mendez is a NorCal. Yeah. So teaches, and Benji as well. Mm-hmm. So, and we have some other dudes that are active. I won't say their names. But like me, Angel, Mike, Alex, Nate, and Benji, like core dudes. Yeah. So, are you an adrenaline junkie? Or have you like moved on from that? Because like, what's next? Like, I know you're not like what's next and like what do you do next? Because I think what you're doing right now is like we just said, like the puzzle pieces are fitting, everything is going good. Like, do you want to keep doing what you're doing right now? Do you have like a different goal you want to hit or any like, I mean, you can still do what you want to do right now, but like different other goals. Like I know you're competing in jiu-jitsu after your like nose heals and stuff. Like what are your other
goals? Because I feel like anyone I've met that's like a military vet or active, they're very goal driven. Like they're like, how can I up myself? How can I be better? Like, where are you with that?
For my mind, there's always another mountain to climb.
Yeah.
I love competing in jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. I love to compete at the highest level, continue to compete. I'm only 30, so like we're not even like started yet, honestly.
Yeah.
Which
is so crazy. Everything you just said, you're like, just turned 30. I'm like, oh shit.
I feel crazy. Like I'm right where I should be and need to be.
Yeah.
My purpose is to share my knowledge and newly like share my story, which has only happened the last 3 months.
Yeah.
The feedback I got was like profound and like blew me away about how it helped other people.
Yeah.
And like, I'm sitting here crying on camera, like, this is not cool. Like, for a guy to cry on camera, like, I don't give a fuck. And like, I'm fucking drained right now. Yeah. But I know it's just like, it's going to help so many other people.
Yeah.
So like, that's my purpose, to share my story, be with DSG, my brothers.
Yeah.
Keep healing my family and help other people as much as I can.
Well, you have an amazing story. Is there anything else you want to share?
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We just drained you. You're like, I think that's it.
Before we close, I want to thank you for having me on.
No, of course. Thank you.
Podcast.
Thank you for being vulnerable. I think it's hard, and especially for men. I feel like you guys are conditioned to be robots, and especially military men. You're conditioned, and I feel like we said like earlier, I feel like it does benefit you almost to like be robotic and like have no emotions. But in all reality, when you're transitioning back into being a real person, it's like you need to feel that and you need to be able to process that. So thank you for sharing. And I know that a lot of that information wasn't easy to say or easy to, share to just YouTube. You know what I mean? Yeah. But either way, thank you for coming on. I appreciate that. We'll have to do another one in the future.
Absolutely.
But thank you. And make sure you follow Zack Ferg on Instagram. Do you have any other social medias or just Instagram?
YouTube, social media. It's all at Zack Ferg. And
follow DSG too.
DSG and the Pink Corner podcast.
Yeah, and if you're in SoCal and you want some like cool gun courses, make sure you hit up DSG. I've done a few courses myself and they never disappoint. So, but other than that, thank you for coming, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll be back hopefully with news of a 4th episode soon. But for now, I'll let you guys sit with this one, and I'll be back with some fight related predictions and stuff. But overall, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you guys later.